The stars burned cold and distant against the black sea of space, yet in that endless dark, the sensors of the Galactic Empire lit up with warning signs. A fleet was moving across a boundary no species had dared cross for centuries, the edge of the Empire's core territory, where countless worlds lay bound in obedience. No race had ever stepped past that line without kneeling. No race had ever walked through without tribute or submission. Yet now unknown ships appeared, moving calmly, as if they belonged there. The Imperial patrol ships reacted first. They were massive blades of steel and plasma, built to intimidate entire civilizations. Their captains expected panic. They expected a rush to retreat, but the strangers did not run instead. They continued forward at steady speed, like travelers who saw no reason to stop. The first scans reached the Imperial command center. The admiral on duty narrowed his eyes. These vessels were unfamiliar, smaller than most Imperial cruisers. Their weapons looked crude, almost primitive compared to the technology of the Empire, and yet something about them felt wrong. Not weak, but unbending. He gave a single order: intercept them, surround them, and make them kneel in deep space. The patrol ships emerged. From folded lights surrounding the intruders, the Empire's ships glowed with bright blue energy. Cannons, charged ready to fire, voices thundered over the comms, ordering the newcomers to halt, identify themselves, and prepare to be boarded. The words were sharp, the tone practiced after 1,000 years of crushing dissent. The answer that came back was calm, steady, and almost casual. "We are humans from Earth. We come in peace, but we do not kneel." The admiral froze. The bridge crew went silent. They had heard defiance before, but never like this. There was no hesitation, no trembling in the voice, just calm refusal, as if these newcomers had no idea what kind of power they were facing, or worse, as if they knew and did not care. The patrol ships moved closer, weapons primed. The humans did not change course. The formation held steady. Their ships looked fragile beside the Empire's giants. Yet their captains spoke no words of fear. They simply continued forward across the invisible line, as though nothing stood in their way. The first officer of the flagship leaned toward the admiral. "Surely they don't understand who we are. No one defies the Empire. They will kneel once they see our power." But the admiral was not so sure. His instincts screamed that something was different. He ordered a warning shot. A beam of plasma sliced across the void, missing the human lead ship by mere meters. The flash was bright enough to blind sensors for a second. When the light cleared, the human ship was still there, steady, unmoving. The crew inside, calm at their stations, as if a giant storm had passed them by and meant nothing. The admiral growled, "Send another order this time. Harsher kneel or be destroyed." Silence filled the channel for a moment. Then the human voice returned again, steady, clear. "We do not kneel." Across the galaxy, in hidden corners, whispers began to stir. Long suppressed species monitored the encounter secretly, some through stolen comms, others through desperate networks of rebellion. The news spread fast. The Empire had found strangers who did not bend, strangers who did not fear the strongest fleet in the stars. The Imperial fleet surrounded them, weapons aimed from every angle, but the humans held their line every second. That passed grew heavier, the silence louder. It was no longer just a standoff. It was a question of will. Who would break first? Inside the human flagship, the crew sat in perfect order. Their captain, an older man with calm eyes, spoke quietly to his officers. "Remember our orders. We came to make contact. Not war, but we do not show weakness. Hold formation, speak when spoken to. And above all, never kneel." The officers nodded, their faces pale, but their eyes sharp. They knew they were surrounded by forces that could tear them apart in seconds, but they also knew what surrender meant to the Empire. Every world that bent the knee became a chain. Every species that bowed lost its name and its pride. The humans had chosen another path, even if it meant annihilation. The Imperial Admiral studied the tactical display. The humans should be terrified, yet their energy readings were steady. No wild spikes, no panic. They were not scrambling shields, they were not charging weapons, they were simply standing their ground. It made no sense. No Empire race would act like this unless they had some hidden strength, unless they carried something the Admiral did not yet see. One of his captains broke discipline and demanded to attack, now crush them, before their defiance spreads. But the Admiral lifted his hand. Not yet. There was something here he needed to understand. The two fleets drifted in silence across the Black Gulf. Only the hum of engines and the soft ping of scanners filled the void. And in that silence, every second grew heavier. The weight of history pressed down. The Empire had ruled unchallenged for 1,000 years, but now a single word hung in the air. No. The human captain leaned back in his chair, watching the display of surrounding ships. Calm voice steady to his crew. Hold your line. They want fear. We give them none. They want submission. We give them silence. He thought of Earth far behind him, oceans and mountains, cities and people waiting for news. He thought of the promise they had made when they left Earth. They would not represent humanity as slaves. They would not represent humanity as subjects. They would stand as equals or not at all. The Imperial Admiral finally broke the silence, his voice cold, final. Then you have chosen death. The humans did not move. Their captain simply said, if it comes to death, we accept it, but we do not kneel. The words echoed across the comms. The bridge crew of the Empire felt an unfamiliar chill, not fear of the humans' strength, but of their unshakable will. The Admiral gave the order to prepare full firepower. Weapons, charged engines. Roared the light of destruction gathered in the void. The human ship still unmoving, steady against the storm that was about to come. And in that moment across the stars, the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see if the humans would finally break, or if they truly would refuse to back down. The blackness of space stretched forever, silent, cold, endless, and yet inside that silence tension grew heavier with each passing second. The humans had not moved, they had not surrendered, and the Empire was not used to waiting. The Imperial fleet circled them, a wall of steel and firepower weapons locked on human hulls, engines humming like predators. Ready to strike. One order could end it all. On the bridge of the Imperial flagship, Admiral Thalor paced his armored boots, striking the deck plates with sharp echoes. His officers avoided his eyes. Every display showed the same thing: human ships surrounded. Human ships refusing to respond with fear. This was no mistake, no accident. They were deliberately standing their ground. He had fought 100 wars. He had crushed rebellions and shattered fleets, but never had he seen intruders act with such stillness. Even the bravest rebels shook before the Empire, but these humans, their readings showed calm. Their formation never faltered. It was as if they faced nothing more than a passing storm. His first officer leaned close, whispering, "They are fragile ships. Sir, our cannons could reduce them to atoms in seconds." Thalor narrowed his eyes. "Then why do they not retreat? Why do they not beg? Why do they not kneel?" Silence answered, and the silence was more dangerous than any weapon across the void in the human. Flagship Captain Elias Ward sat at the center of the command deck, his face calm, his eyes sharp. Every officer around him sat, ready hands steady on consoles. Though every one of them knew the truth, they were outnumbered, outgunned. If a battle started, they would be erased. Yet none spoke of fear. Elias had given one order, and it burned in all of them: do not kneel. The communications officer's console flickered a message from the Empire voice, deep, mechanical, amplified by authority. "You are surrounded. You are trespassing. You will surrender or be destroyed." The crew looked to Elias, waiting. His face did not change. He leaned forward slowly, pressed transmit channel open. He spoke calmly, each word measured. "We are humans from Earth. We come with respect. We come to talk, but we will not bow. We will not kneel." The words went out across the stars, broadcast into every Imperial ship and recorded by hidden channels. the Empire did not know existed. Slaves, rebels, smugglers all listened in shock. They heard the voice of a species unknown to them yet unbroken, the voice of strangers who dared say no. Admiral Thaler's jaw tightened. His hand hovered over the fire command, but he stopped again. Something inside gnawed at him. This should have been easy. It was not. Why? He opened a private channel to the human flagship, his voice sharp. I do not understand you. You have no hope of survival yet. You act as if you are safe. Tell me why. Captain Elias answered steady. Because fear is the weapon of tyrants. We are not afraid of you. The words struck like blades on the bridge. Of the Imperial flagship officers exchanged uneasy glances. They had crushed countless species with fear, but this one, this human, did not break. One of the Imperial captains could not take it longer and demanded to attack Admiral. Give the order, crush them now. Show the galaxy what happens to defiance. Thaler turned slowly, his gaze burning, and yet deep inside he felt something that unsettled him. If he crushed these humans, their defiance would echo louder across the stars. If he let them live, their presence might unravel order. Either choice was dangerous. The humans held their line, seconds stretched into minutes, the void heavy with silence. Inside the human flagship, tension coiled tighter. Every officer knew death could come at any moment. The weapons of the Empire glowed brighter than suns outside the viewport, yet none spoke of surrender. They followed. Elias never wavered. He leaned to his tactical officer softly. If they fire, we hold position shields, maximum no counterstrike, unless I give the word. The officer frowned, his throat dry. Sir, if they fire, we will not survive. Elias's eyes hardened. Then we die standing, not kneeling. The officer's chest tightened, but he nodded firmly. The crew heard every word, and in that moment a bond stronger than steel spread through the deck. They were ready to die, but not to bow. The comms officer suddenly whispered, Sir, they are charging weapons full spread. The deck went silent, heartbeats loud in the still air. Elias's voice cut through, hold steady. On the Imperial flagship, Admiral Thaler watched as targeting systems locked on his hand hovered over the fire command. His officers waited breathless. Then slowly he lowered his hand. Not yet, he growled. Open channel. Once more his voice thundered across the void. This is your final chance. Kneel, acknowledge the Empire, and you will live. Elias stood slowly, his voice firm. "Be clear," carried across the stars. "We came to speak, not kneel. We will not move." The last word echoed. Long and heavy silence followed. And then the unthinkable happened. The humans transmitted not a plea, not a surrender, but a map. A map of their home world. Earth, and a message of invitation. "We invite you to talk with us as equals." Thalor stared in disbelief. No one spoke to the Empire like this. No one invited the Empire. No one defied the Empire. Yet these fragile ships, these small creatures had done. So without fear, across the galaxy, the whispers grew stronger. Species chained for centuries began to dream again. If the humans can say no, maybe we can too. Inside the human flagship, Elias's crew waited, sweat on, brows, hearts pounding, but eyes unbroken. The void outside shimmered with the glow of hundreds of weapons, and yet they remained steady. Thaler clenched his fists, fury and curiosity battling inside him. He wanted to destroy them, to erase their insult. But another voice whispered inside his. Mind if he did so? Their defiance would echo forever. If he spared them, he risked rebellion. If he fought them and they somehow survived, the Empire would never recover. He leaned forward, eyes cold, voice sharp to his officers. "We will not fire. Not yet. Let them think they have time, but mark me. These humans will learn what it means to defy the Empire on the human bridge." Elias exhaled slowly, a whisper that only his crew heard. "We bought a little more time." The crew exchanged glances. No cheers, no Smiles only grim understanding. They had survived the first storm, but the war had only just begun. Outside, the stars burned cold. The void stretched silent, yet heavy with promise. The Empire had met humanity, and humanity had not moved an inch. And across the galaxy, something unseen began to stir rebellion, hope, defiance. The first encounter had ended, but the true war had just begun. The void was calm, but it was the kind of calm that made warriors hold their breath, the kind of calm that came. Before storms, the human fleet drifted in formation, a handful of ships fragile beside the vast wall of steel and firepower that was the Galactic Empire. The humans had spoken clearly. They would not kneel, they would not move. They had bought themselves time. But time was dangerous in the Empire. On the Imperial flagship, Admiral Thalor stood at the command dais. His eyes locked on the tactical displays. Every reading showed the same result. The humans should not matter. Their ships were too small. Their weapons too simple. Their numbers laughable, yet every second they refused to retreat, burned like fire across the Empire comms networks. Their defiance was already spreading, whispers traveling from slave mines to hidden dens of smugglers, from rebel outposts to forgotten colonies. The humans were a threat, not because of their weapons, but because of their will. Thalor clenched his fists. His fleet had to make an example. Hesitation was weakness, and weakness in the Empire was death. He turned to his officer's voice sharp. "Prepare the trial of strength." One of the captains raised his head with eager eyes. "Permission to lead the strike." Admiral Thalor nodded. "You will lead 3 wings. Break their formation. Make them bow. If they resist, erase them." The order spread through the fleet like thunder weapons. Powered shields flared. The silence of the void filled with the hum of war. Inside the human flagship, Captain Elias Ward listened to the rising signals, his face calm, but his crew felt the weight. Pressing down, tactical officer whispered, "Sir, they are moving 3 wings, breaking formation, heading toward us." Elias's voice, steady, confirmed, targeting patterns. "Are they testing us?" The officer nodded. "They mean to surround us and cut us apart." Elias leaned forward, eyes hard. "Then they will learn what it means to fight humans. Prepare countermeasures, but hold fire until my mark." The crew moved with tense discipline, hands flying across consoles, shields shifted, formations tightened. Every officer knew they could not win a straight fight. The Empire ships were too strong, but humans had always fought against stronger enemies. They had always survived through cunning and unpredictability. The first wave came fast. Imperial cruisers cut across the dark like knives, their cannons glowing with lethal light, targeting locks painted across the human hulls. A voice filled the comms. "One last chance, kneel or burn." Elias gave a single order. "Transmit reply." The comms officer nodded. "Channel open." Elias spoke, his voice iron. "We will not kneel. Do what you must." The first shot tore across the void. A blinding spear of energy slicing at the human vanguard. Shields flared, cracking under the force. Alarms screamed, but the line held. Human officers clenched, fists teeth grit. Their captain's voice cut through. "Steady, hold formation, do not break." The Empire struck again. Volleys of plasma and fire, battering shields. Humans absorbed the blows, struggling to keep systems online. But still, no retreat. Still, no bowing. The line remained. On the Imperial flagship, Thalor narrowed his eyes. They were not breaking, they were not scattering. He barked, "Increase firepower, press them harder, break their shields, show them fear." The second wave hit harder. Explosions flared across human hulls. One ship staggered under the blast, crew shouting damage reports, smoke-filled decks. But still the formation held. Inside the human command deck, Elias's voice was calm as stone. "Maintain discipline, keep formation alive." Tactical officer shouted, "Shields at 40%. Elias replied, "Then we hold with 40%. The humans shifted tactics silently, their ships drifting just enough to change angles, just enough to confuse targeting locks. Imperial gunners cursed, their shots suddenly missing by inches. Humans were reading them, predicting them, moving like predators, not prey. The Empire pressed harder, but the humans adapted faster. Sudden bursts of counterfire lit the dark, small, precise strikes aimed not at shields, but at engines, sensors, weapons, the weak points, the places no Empire ship had been attacked. Before sparks flared on Imperial hulls, captains roared in rage, their systems staggered. Thaler's eyes widened. They are outnumbered, outgunned. Yet, they fight like this. Who taught them these tactics? The battle turned chaotic. Imperial formations broken by humans, weaving between firing arcs, their small ships darting like knives between giants. A cruiser lost sensors, another lost engines, another spun out of formation, smoke trailing into the void. For the first time in centuries, an Empire fleet was not winning. Instantly, they were struggling against a foe, weaker, smaller, and yet unyielding. Inside, the human flagship officers worked like one. Mind damage alarms filled the deck, but no one panicked. Every strike they made, every maneuver they took carried one message: we do not kneel. Elias stood calm, steady, his voice guiding his crew like a beacon shift. Left fire burst, engines cut power. Then roll. The crew obeyed without question. Their ship darted through a gap. 2 enemy cannons missed. Wide human counterstrike crippled an Imperial destroyer. Across the void, alien eyes watched hidden rebel networks, smuggler relays, pirate dens. They saw the impossible, humans holding against the Empire. Humans wounding the untouchable, humans saying no with every strike. The whispers grew into fire. The galaxy stirred. On the Imperial flagship, Thalor slammed his fist against the dais, rage burning. Through him, he had to end this now. If this battle continued, the Empire would look weak. He roared, all wings converge, crush them, erase them. The void lit with fire, dozens of cruisers converging, all weapons blazing, humans thrown against the wall. Alarms shrieked. One human ship lost shields, decks torn open, screams cut short. Another staggered, smoke flooding corridors, medics racing, fire suppression. Failing, Elias's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed calm. Patch damage, reroute power, hold formation. The crew obeyed, teeth grit, eyes fierce. They were dying, but they were not bowing. The battle raged. Plasma storms lit the void, human ships shaking, breaking, but still striking back like wolves biting at lions. Elias leaned forward, voice sharp to tactical. Target their flagship, weak point on left flank, prepare strike on my mark. The humans gathered power, their weapons small compared to the Empire's, but aimed with precision, aimed with fury. Elias raised his hand. Hold now. The humans fired as one. Beams lancing across the dark, straight into the Imperial flagship's flank shields. Flared, sparks exploded, systems cracked, alarms screamed across Thaler's deck. His officers shouted in disbelief. The humans had struck the heart of the Empire. Fleet Thalor's face twisted in rage. Silence fell across the command deck. Not silence of victory, but silence of shock, silence of shame. The humans, battered, broken, outnumbered, had held the line and struck back. Elias's ship burned smoke-filled corridors. Crew wounded bodies carried to med bays, but their eyes still shone with fire. They had survived, they had fought giants, and still they stood. The Imperial fleet pulled back, not in defeat, but in regrouping, yet the damage was done across the galaxy. The news spread faster than light. The humans had faced the Empire in battle and lived. They had struck the Empire, and the Empire bled in, hidden. Corners slaves whispered, maybe chains can be broken in dark cells. Rebels whispered, maybe hope is not dead in smuggler dens. Pirates whispered, maybe the Empire can fall. And in the void, the humans drifted, battered, scarred, but unbroken, their message clear to all who listened: we do not kneel, we do not move, we do not break. The test of strength had ended, but the true war had only just begun. The battle had ended, but the echoes of it spread like fire through dry grass across the galaxy. The Empire tried to bury the reports. They shut down official channels. They silenced officers who spoke too freely. They erased records from the common archives. But it was already too late. The truth was alive. The humans had fought the Empire and had not broken. They had struck an Imperial flagship and lived in hidden tunnels on slave worlds. Whispers began. Slaves who had not spoken above a whisper in years now murmured to each other, "Did you hear they say a new people stood against the Empire, they say?" These humans would not kneel on mining colonies where chains rattled. Day and night, workers passed the story in fragments. One said they held against a fleet. Another said they crippled a battleship. A third said they looked into the eye of the Empire. And said no, the story grew larger with every telling, but it did not matter. Truth and rumor mixed together, because what mattered was the spark. For the first time in centuries, people dared to dream that the Empire could be resisted on the Imperial. Flagship Admiral Thalor sat in silence. His officers waited, afraid to speak. The damage from the human strike had been repaired, but the scar of humiliation remained. The Admiral's mind burned. He had not just faced defiance, he had allowed it to. Survive every second those humans lived, their defiance spread like poison. His first officer tried to speak. "Sir, the humans are pulling back to a safe distance. Shall we pursue?" Thalor turned his cold eyes on him. "Not yet. We will not chase them like beasts. They want us to come to them. They want us to bleed more instead. We will wait and strike when they cannot stand it." He clenched his fist, voice low. "But burning they will pay, and so will anyone who dares believe in them." On the human flagship, the air was heavy. Smoke still lingered from damaged decks. Wounded crew rested in medbays, yet no one's spirit was broken. They had faced the worst storm and were still alive. Captain Elias Ward stood at the central viewport, his reflection cast. In the stars, his officers gathered around, waiting for his words. He spoke quiet but firm. "The Empire will not forgive us for what we did today. They will come with everything they have, but we showed them something they have not seen in centuries. We showed them that we do not kneel." The crew stood straighter, their eyes hard, even through exhaustion. They were battered, but they were proud. Elias continued, "The galaxy is watching us right now. More than we know, the Empire wants to crush us before. That spark can spread, but we will hold, we will endure." The comms officer looked up from his console. "Captain, incoming transmission, but not from the Empire." Elias raised his brow, put it through. The voice that filled the deck was cautious, distorted. By layers of encryption, it was not Imperial, it was alien. "We are not your enemy. We watched your battle, we saw what you did, and we want to speak." The crew exchanged glances. Officers stiffened. Elias stayed calm. "Identify yourself." The voice hesitated. "We cannot give names, not yet. The Empire hears everything, but know this. We have lived under chains for generations, and when we saw you stand against them, we saw hope." Elias leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Then meet us. Tell us what you need." The alien voice, cracked with emotion, "We need freedom." The transmission cut, leaving the human crew in silence. Heavy silence. Every officer knew what it meant. They were not just explorers anymore. They were becoming a symbol. Across the galaxy, in a market city, ruled by the Empire, merchants whispered behind shutters, "Humans," they said, "humans who fight giants in the shadows." Rebels took oaths by the name of the humans. Smugglers painted crude symbols of Earth across their ships as a sign of defiance. But inside the halls of the Empire, the High Council gathered ancient rulers whose faces had never known fear. They raged at the reports. Their voices thundered through marble chambers. One slammed his clawed hand against the table. "Impossible. No one resists." As another snarled, "If this spreads, our dominion cracks at its roots." They turned their wrath toward Thalor, demanding answers. He bowed his head, not in shame, but in fury. "Give me time. Give me fleets, and I will crush them." But one counselor leaned back. Eyes narrowed. "Perhaps we should not be so hasty. Perhaps these humans can be turned. Perhaps they can be used." The others snapped at him. Fools, they do not kneel. They must be destroyed. In the shadows of those debates, secret factions stirred. Some saw the humans as danger. Others saw them as opportunity. Cracks formed even in the Empire's highest walls. Meanwhile, in the human flagship, Elias stood with his officers around the central table, the intercepted message replaying, "We need freedom." The words echoed heavy inside them. Elias finally spoke. "This is what the Empire fears most. Not our weapons, not our ships, but the idea that others might follow us." His tactical officer frowned. "Sir, if we answer this call, we risk more than our fleet. We risk Earth itself." Elias's gaze hardened. "We already risk Earth every time we fly under our own flag, every moment we refuse to bow. The Empire will come for us. The only question is, will we stand alone, or will others stand with us?" The crew looked. At him none spoke, but all knew. The choice had already been made. In hidden places across the stars, the whispers grew louder in a mining pit. Slaves carved words into stone. Humans live in dark alleys, rebels painted stars on walls. Humans fight in pirate dens, smugglers raised glasses to earth. Humans endure. Admiral Thalor listened to these rumors with burning hatred. He prepared his fleets, training his soldiers for the strike to come. But deep inside, even he knew the truth. Every moment the humans lived, the more dangerous they became, not because of their guns, but because of their defiance. The Empire's strength was fear, and fear was breaking. Elias looked once more at the stars, the crew silent around him. He whispered to himself, "They are afraid of us, not because of what we are, but because of what we mean. We mean the end of their chains." The galaxy shifted silently that night, unseen by most, but felt by all. The humans had whispered no, and the universe had listened. The whispers of defiance were awake, and nothing would silence them again. The galaxy did not sleep after the whispers of humanity spread. Chains rattled louder, rebellions stirred in silence, and the Empire's anger grew heavy like a storm before breaking. The Council of the Empire demanded blood. They demanded proof that no one could defy them. They demanded the humans be crushed so hard that their story would never pass from one mouth to another. In the marble chamber of the Council, the oldest voices roared, "The humans must be erased." One councillor hissed, "They are nothing. Their ships are toys. Yet they humiliated us before all the stars." Another growled, "Then let us unleash the judgment weapon. Let us remind the galaxy why they kneel at our feet." Chamber fell silent. The judgment weapon was not spoken of often. It was the weapon used only once in centuries. A weapon so powerful entire populations surrendered at the mere mention of it. Admiral Thaler stood before the council, his armor scarred. His eyes burning, he bowed his head. "Use the weapon, give me the order, and I will show the humans what it means to stand against the Empire." The order was given without hesitation. The judgment weapon would be tested on the humans far across the void. In the human flagship, Captain Elias Ward stood in silence on his command deck. He stared at the latest report streams of whispers, encrypted transmissions, fragments of messages, all saying the same thing. The Empire is preparing something enormous. The crew shifted uneasy, their captain's silence heavy like stone. His first officer broke it finally. "So what if they bring their full strength? What if this is not just another fleet?" Elias turned his gaze steady and calm. "Then we stand as we always have, not kneeling, not bending. We show the galaxy that chains can break." The words lifted his crew's hearts, though fear lingered in their eyes. They had already survived storms, but this storm was darker than any they had known. The day came without, warning the human colony on the edge of settled space. A young world with farms, cities, children, and families was the first to see the judgment weapon. From the void came a shadow larger than any warship, the Imperial weapon ship, black and vast-shaped. Like a spear of death energy pulsing along its length, alarms rang out across the colony as they realized too late what was above them. The ship charged its weapon. The sky turned crimson. Farmers stared in horror. Children cried in fear. Soldiers tried to fire useless weapons into the sky. Then the beam fell. It was not just destruction, it was silence. Entire cities turned to ash in seconds. Oceans boiled, the ground cracked. Fire consumed the world, and then there was nothing but dust across the galaxy. The images spread, some sent by rebels who risked their lives, some captured by smugglers who saw from far away. Entire species gasped in horror. The Empire had shown its judgment weapon again. On the human flagship, the news struck like a blade. Crew stood frozen screens filled with images of a world erased. Elias's jaw tightened, his hands curled into fists. His crew waited for orders, but his silence spoke louder than anything. Finally, he said it steady low. They think this will break us. They think fire will make us kneel, but they do not understand. Humans do not kneel to death. His tactical officer's eyes burned with anger. Sir, we must strike back. We must. And Sir Elias nodded, but not in rage and precision. The galaxy is watching. If we fall to fury, we are nothing. If we stand calm in the face of this, they will see what cannot be broken. Across rebel channels, messages exploded. They saw humans lose a colony, yet still not surrender. One rebel leader whispered, "If they can survive this, we can rise." Another said, "They fight not just with ships, they fight with spirit, and that spirit is stronger than any weapon." The Empire believed fear would spread, but instead, something else grew: rage and hope. In the council chamber, reports poured in. The humans did not surrender after their colony burned. The humans did not bow. One councillor slammed the table. "Impossible." Another hissed, "Then burn another world." Yet a third leaned back, whispering, "Afraid they will never bow if we destroy them all. We turn them into martyrs, and martyrs are more dangerous than armies." But Admiral Thaler stood without doubt, his voice sharp. "Then we end them. Not with one weapon, not with fear, but with fire on every front. Their fleets will be broken, their allies crushed, their very home world will burn." On the human flagship, Elias gathered his officers around the central table. His voice was steady. "We cannot match their power, but we can match their will. Every strike we take must show the galaxy that they cannot break us. We may lose worlds, we may lose ships, but we will never lose who we are." His crew stood in silence. Then, one by one, they nodded, eyes, hard voices steady together. "We stand together, we fight." The next battle came fast. Imperial fleets striking like storms across human lines. Each time the humans answered, not with surrender, but with defiance. Every blow they took, every scar they bore, became another message to the galaxy. On one outpost, humans stood shoulder to shoulder, weapons blazing until the last wall fell. Not one raised the white flag. Their last words transmitted across rebel channels: "We do not kneel on another colony." Families fled into shelters. While soldiers held the line, their broadcasts reached smugglers and miners alike. "We will not move." Every act of defiance was a weapon stronger than plasma, stronger than fleets. Admiral Thaler raged in fury. With each report he wanted victory, but all he found was resistance. The humans refused to die quietly. They refused to let their story. And Elias knew they were walking through fire. He knew Earth itself might be the next target. But he also knew the truth. The galaxy was watching, and the galaxy was listening. In hidden caves, miners whispered, "If they can stand, so can we." In crumbling slums, rebels whispered, "The Empire bleeds in the black markets." Smugglers whispered, "The humans rise." The Empire's judgment weapon had burned a world, but instead of silence, it had lit a flame that spread faster than fear. Elias stood at his viewport, eyes hard, voice low, almost a whisper, but every officer heard it. "They think destruction will end us, but it only proves us stronger. We are humanity, and we do not kneel." And across the stars that whisper grew louder, heavier, unstoppable, until even the halls of the Empire could not shut it out. The humans had faced the judgment of the Empire, and still they stood unbroken. The galaxy trembled under the shadow of fear, but fear was not enough anymore. Fear cracked when it met defiance. Fear bled when humans refused to kneel. The Empire thought the judgment weapon would silence the stars. Instead, it gave them fire. Across distant worlds, whispers became shouts. Miners, who had bowed their heads for generations, now raised pickaxes as weapon smugglers. Who had once sold silence now carried messages of rebellion. Farmers who had once given harvest to the Empire now refused trade, their voices spreading the same words again and again. If humans can stand, so can we. In the dark of space, the human flagship Vanguard cut through the void. Elias Ward stood tall on his bridge, his eyes locked on the stars, his crew silent around him. They had seen the judgment weapon, they had seen a world turn to ash, but still they stood unbroken. His first officer spoke, her voice sharp. "Sir, reports are flooding in. Outposts are rioting, entire colonies are rising. The Empire cannot silence them." Elias's gaze hardened. The fire is spreading, but fire alone will not win this war. It must be given shape. It must be given steel. A hollow map bloomed before them, stars lit with red marks, signals of unrest, messages of hope, cries of defiance. Elias pointed his hand. "Steady there. Is the Empire's supply line? Cut it, and they will starve their fleets. Cut it, and they will bleed." His voice was calm, but it carried iron. "This is where we strike." The plan spread through rebel channels faster than the Empire could stop it. The humans were not just resisting, they were leading on. The mining world of Dravos, slaves tore down banners of the Empire. They built barricades from broken machines, armed themselves with drills and torches. When Imperial soldiers came, they did not kneel. Instead, they shouted one word: humanity. In the floating cities of Kinnar, smugglers united their ships together. For the first time, they flew under a single mark, not the mark of the Empire, but a crude flag painted with defiance. It was humanity's flag, symbol spreading faster than fleets could chase. But the Empire was not blind. Admiral Thaler watched the flames grow on his command deck, fury boiling in his chest. He slammed his fist against the steel table. Every report was the same: rebellion here, rebellion there, humans at the center always. The humans. His voice roared across the chamber: crush them, burn their allies, leave no world standing. Yet even as his fleets moved faster, rebellion moved faster still. Every strike of the Empire brought more defiance. Every fire lit another. On the human flagship, the crew gathered around Elias, their faces worn but their spirits burning brighter than ever. His tactical officer leaned forward. "Sir, the galaxy is turning to us, but if we fail now, they will all fall." Elias's voice was calm but sharp. "Then we cannot fail." The next strike came swift. Imperial fleets descended upon the rebel mining world of Dravos, their warships black against the stars. The miners stood ready, their weapons crude, but their hearts steady. They had no hope against warships until human ships arrived, the Vanguard leading the charge. The battle was chaos. Plasma tore the skies. Fighters screamed across the void. Miners fought on the ground with fire and steel above them. Humans rained fury into the Empire's fleets. The galaxy watched the feeds smuggled out through secret channels, humans fighting not just for themselves, but for all on the ground. A miner's voice carried through a stolen transmitter: humanity stands with us. Humanity fights for us. The word spread through hidden networks, entire worlds listening in silence, entire worlds finally believing. The battle ended with fire, but not silence. The miners held their ground. Human ships still stood above. The world, the Empire, retreated in shame. Admiral Thaler's rage was a storm. He gathered his officers, his voice slicing like a blade. They spread rebellion like a disease. "Then we will cut out the disease. We will strike their heart." His eyes burned. "With hate, we will burn Earth itself, in the shadows of space." Elias listened to intercepted transmissions, his crew silent around him when the words came clear. Their breath froze. Earth was the target, the home of humanity, the heart of their defiance. Elias's hands tightened on the edge of the console, his voice low, steady. Then they come for our home, then we show them the heart of humanity will never be broken. Rebel leaders across the stars heard the same words. The Empire moves for Earth. Some feared. But more rose. One smuggler captain said, if they strike Earth and humans still stand, then none of us will have excuses left. One miner whispered, then the galaxy itself will rise. Across the stars, fleets moved shadows, gathering storms, forming the Empire with all its power preparing to end humanity forever, and the humans with all their fire preparing to show the galaxy what it truly meant to stand on the bridge of the vanguard. Elias looked at his crew, his eyes steady, his voice calm. We stand at the edge of fire, but fire is where steel is made. We will not kneel, we will not fall, we will show the galaxy that even against an empire, humanity does not move. The stars outside glowed cold, but the crew felt warmth burning inside them. Not hope, alone, not fear, but something harder, something stronger, defiance. The storm was coming. Earth stood in the path. The Empire believed it would break humanity. The galaxy believed it would decide everything, and Elias whispered one last time, so only his crew could hear. Then let them come and see. The rebellion had begun, and it would not stop until either the Empire or humanity was ash in the stars. The stars trembled as fleets moved, shadows stretching across the galaxy. The Empire had made its decision. The order was given. Earth would burn. Admiral Thaler's voice thundered across the bridge of his flagship, his eyes sharp with hate. Humanity thinks itself unbreakable. They think defiance is strength. We will show them the cost. We will turn their home into dust, so none will ever dare again. The fleet gathered, black warships like a storm, their hulls reflecting no light, their weapons primed. Worlds watched in silence, the Empire's forces moving with purpose and fury, their path clear. Earth on the human flagship Vanguard. Elias Ward stood silent, his eyes fixed on the holomap, Earth glowing bright at the center of the storm around him. His officers waited, the tension heavy in the air. The enemy was vast, stronger, faster, overwhelming, but Elias's voice broke the silence, calm, steady. They believe they face only Earth. They are wrong. They face all of us. The galaxy is watching now, every soul waiting to see if we fall or stand. His first officer leaned forward, her voice tight. Then we must not fail, Sir. Elias nodded, his jaw set. We will not. As Earth prepared, the people stood not in silence, but in unity. The old cities filled with barricades, the skies with defensive cannons. Ships once made for trade, now fitted with weapons, pilots training in haste, children hidden underground, parents holding rifles. For the first time, humanity was not waiting for rescue. They were preparing to fight across the galaxy. Allies moved miners, reforged tools into weapons. Smugglers turned fleets into convoys. Rebels sent transmissions, one phrase burning across channels. Humanity stands, we stand. Admiral Thaler's fleet arrived like nightfall, black shapes blotting the stars. Earth below, shining blue, fragile but unbroken, the Empire unleashed its fury. Plasma rained from the skies, entire cities shook with fire. The world trembled, but did not break. On the surface, resistance fighters struck back, striking ships with ground cannons. Fighter wings rose into the sky, their craft old, their numbers few, but their hearts unyielding. From the vanguard, Elias gave the order, his voice steady, unleash everything. Human fleets surged forward, their ships smaller but fast-moving like hunters in the dark. Torpedoes tore into Imperial cruisers, plasma fire cut across the void, explosions lighting the blackness. The battle had begun. Admiral Thaler stood on his bridge, fury burning as human ships struck his fleet again and again, their tactics wild, unpredictable, their pilots reckless beyond reason, and yet they survived. He snarled into the silence. They will die today. None escape. But humans were not alone. Rebels arrived. Ships breaking from hidden routes, miners from Dravos, smugglers from Kainar, free fighters from colonies. Long silenced their fleets, ragged their weapons crude, but their resolve unshaken. Messages filled the comms channels. Voices shouting, "We fight for Earth. We fight for all." The battle became chaos. Warships colliding, fighters burning across the skies, Earth below glowing with fire, but refusing to fall. Elias stood on the bridge, his crew fighting with every breath. His tactical officer called out, "Sir, more of our ships are falling." Elias's eyes hardened. "Then we hold longer. Hold until the galaxy itself believes." On the surface, in the ruins of New London, soldiers fought hand to hand with Imperial troops, fire burning all around. One soldier shouted over the noise, "Humanity does not kneel." His voice carried through comms and was replayed across rebel channels like fire lighting dry fields. Admiral Thalor grew desperate, his fleet losing ground against an enemy that should have been broken. He slammed his hand on the console, his voice sharp enough to cut. "Prepare the judgment weapon." His officers froze, their eyes wide. "Sir, that weapon will scorch the world beyond life." Thalor's fury burned brighter, then let it burn. The weapon charged the stars themselves, seeming to darken around it. Humanity saw death approaching. But still they stood, their ships broken, their cities burning, their people exhausted, and still they did not kneel. Elias watched the weapon charging, his voice steady but cold. "Then this is where we stand ready, the vanguard." His crew stared. "Sir, that weapon will destroy us too." Elias's eyes burned. "Then we will destroy it first." The vanguard surged forward, its engines roaring, its weapons firing with all the fury left in its steel. Imperial fire cut through its hull. The ship shuddered alarms. Screaming, but still, it moved forward closer, until it was within range. Elias gave the order, "Fire everything." Missiles, plasma torpedoes, railguns. Every weapon tore into the judgment device. Explosions lit the void. The weapon screamed with power. Its charge breaking its systems, collapsing then with one final eruption. Its shattered light bursting across the fleet. The shockwave tore ships apart. Imperial fleets scattered, confusion spreading their power, broken their command, shattered. Admiral Thalor stared in silence, his weapon gone, his vengeance undone. On Earth, cheers erupted across ruins, voices shouting through smoke, through fire, through pain. We still stand. Humanity still stands. Elias stood on the damaged bridge, the vanguard burning. But alive, his voice calm, steady, carry this message across every star. Humanity will never kneel. Not today, not ever. The words spread like fire across the galaxy. The Empire's terror broken the myth of their power. Shattered rebellion roared louder than ever, worlds rising together, humanity at the center, not just survivors, but defenders. Admiral Thalor retreated, his fleet broken, but his hate unbroken, his voice low. They may have won today, but this war is not over. Elias looked at Earth through the broken glass of his command deck, the planet scarred but alive. His heart steady, his voice soft. "No, it is not over, but today they learned what it means to face humanity." And across the stars, billions heard the same truth. Humanity had faced the Empire at its strongest, and humanity did not move an inch. The battle for Earth had ended, but the war for the galaxy had only just begun. The galaxy was silent after the battle for Earth. Silence not of peace, but of waiting. The Empire had tasted defiance, and the galaxy had seen the impossible. The humans had survived. Fleets destroyed, cities in ruins, but Earth still alive. That single truth spread faster than light. Humanity had faced the Empire and did not kneel. Admiral Elias Ward stood aboard the vanguard, The ship scarred its hull, torn its crew exhausted, yet their eyes burned with fire. Comms were filled with voices, worlds once silent, now speaking again. Rebellion rising louder with each message, miners calling themselves soldiers, smugglers, calling themselves fleets, rebels, calling themselves free. The galaxy was no longer afraid, but the Empire was not gone. It still stretched across countless systems, its fleets still vast, its armies still endless, and in the shadows it gathered strength. Again the voice of Admiral Thailor carried through what remained of his command. They think victory is theirs. They think one battle changes the galaxy. They will learn the cost humanity will burn, and so will any who follow. Yet, for the first time. In centuries, the Empire was on the defensive on Earth. Humanity rebuilt ruins, turned into fortresses, broken ships reforged into war machines, the people no longer just survivors but warriors. And across the stars allies came, the Dravos miners with their heavy ships, the Kinar smugglers with speed, unmatched the rebels of 20 worlds with fire in their hearts. They all gathered under one banner. Humanity's banner. Elias stood before them, his voice calm, steady. This war is no longer only ours. It belongs to every world that has been crushed, every people that has been silenced. The Empire believes it owns the stars. We will show them. The stars belong to all. The fleets moved not to defend, but to strike for the first time in living memory. The war would go to the heart of the Empire. Admiral Thailor had fortified the capital world, his fleet surrounding it like a wall, his voice sharp. Let them come. Let them see the heart of power before they are broken once and for all. The Allied fleet arrived light, flashing off broken hulls, ships repaired with scavenged parts, weapons made from desperation and courage against the Empire's black-armored perfection. They looked fragile, yet they came, and they did not falter. The first clash tore, the void apart, explosions, lighting the skies, fighters streaking between warships, humanity's fleet leading the charge, the vanguard at its heart. Elias's voice, unshaken, pushed through. No retreat, no hesitation. Today ends their reign. The battle raged. Imperial ships cut down rebels fighting with fury, impossible to measure each explosion. Another voice, refusing silence. On the surface of the capital world, Imperial troops gathered, towering citadels, glowing with power, the Emperor himself, watching. From his throne for the first time in centuries, fear in his eyes, Elias led the landing forces through fire, through death, through walls of steel, humans at the front, allies at their side. Together, they broke the gates of the citadel. The throne, no longer untouchable. Admiral Thailor stood waiting, blade in hand, his eyes burning with hatred. "You think you've won," he growled. "You think defiance makes you strong." Elias's voice was quiet, steady. "No, Thailor, defiance makes us human." The duel was short. Brutal blades and fire clashing, echoes of two wills colliding. Thailor struck with rage, Elias with resolve at the final blow. Thailor fell, his eyes wide, his voice breaking impossible. The throne room fell silent, the Emperor himself watching, powerless. His empire crumbling around him. Elias turned to the gathered crowd, his voice echoing across comms, across worlds, across the galaxy. "Your empire is over." And the galaxy believed. The fall of the Empire was not one battle. It was a storm that spread with speed, faster than fire, worlds, rising rebellions, igniting chains, breaking the throne. No longer feared, humanity stood at the center, scarred but unbroken. Not rulers, not conquerors, but defenders. The phrase carried across every star. Humanity stands. Humanity defends. Humanity will never kneel. Elias looked to the stars, through the broken glass of the citadel sky. The war had cost everything, but the future was free. He whispered softly, almost to himself, "This is not the end. It is only the beginning." The Galaxy was no longer under one empire. It was many voices, many peoples rising together, and in the center of it all humanity, the ones who had walked into a galactic empire and refused to back down. The stars were theirs now, not to rule, but to share. Not to conquer, but to defend, and so began the Age of Defenders.